As the Earth's temperature continues to rise, one of the major consequences is the melting of glaciers and polar ice caps. This melting causes seawater to expand, leading to a rise in sea levels. But sea levels aren't just rising due to melting ice.
Sea level rise will affect coastal communities, coastal cities, and low-lying islands.
The oceans are also being affected by thermal expansion, which means that as the water warms, it takes up more space and contributes to the rise in sea levels. The combination of these two factors is causing sea levels to rise at an alarming rate, and this rise is already having significant impacts on coastal communities around the world. Today, we will share 12 different cities around the world that could be in severe danger if sea levels continue to rise. One city that is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of sea level rise is Miami, Florida.
Here in Southeast Florida, we are one of the most sea level rise vulnerable places.
Located on the Atlantic coast, Miami is home to over 5.5 million people and is a major hub in its region. However, the city is also at risk of being flooded due to its low elevation and the fact that much of it was built on top of porous limestone, which means that any excess water has nowhere to go.
I heard the gurgling, and I recognized this morning that it's the flooding into the condo.
In 2017, Hurricane Irma caused widespread damage in Miami, and the city is expected to see more frequent and severe storms as the climate continues to change. Jakarta, Indonesia. The capital and largest city of Indonesia, Jakarta is situated on the northwest coast of the island of Java. Unfortunately, much of the city is at risk of being flooded due to rising sea levels. Jakarta is built on land that is less than 6 feet above sea level, and the city is already experiencing regular flooding. The heavy extraction of underground water is also causing the city to sink, which only exacerbates the problem. It is projected that as much as 95% of Jakarta could be underwater by 2050 if sea levels continue to rise.
Takutnya kapan anak cucu kita harapannya tipis takut.
Located in the Netherlands, Amsterdam is built on a series of canals and is known for its beautiful waterways and picturesque houses. Amsterdam is also at risk of flooding due to its location on the coast and the fact that the Netherlands is a low-lying country. If sea levels were to rise, Amsterdam would be particularly vulnerable due to the fact that the city is already sinking. The city is built on top of a layer of sand, which is slowly being compacted over time. This process, called subsidence, is causing the city to sink at a rate of about 1 centimeter or 0.4 inches per year. As the city sinks, it becomes increasingly vulnerable to flooding from the sea. To mitigate the risk of flooding, the Netherlands has implemented a number of measures. One of these measures is the Delta Works, which is a series of dams, levees, and storm surge barriers that are designed to protect the country from flooding. The Delta Works has been successful in reducing the risk of flooding in the Netherlands, but it is not foolproof. If sea levels continue to rise, it may not be enough to protect the country from flooding. Alexandria, Egypt. Located on the Mediterranean coast, Alexandria is the second largest city in Egypt. Alexandria is also facing the threat of flooding due to rising sea levels. Alexandria is built on a strip of land that is just 15 feet above sea level, and the city is experiencing more frequent and severe storms. This combination puts much of the city at risk of being flooded in the coming decades.
Alexandria has experienced a seasonal rainstorm since last week.
As the largest city in China, Shanghai is home to a population of over 24 million people and is an important center for trade and commerce. However, its proximity to the coast makes it vulnerable to the impacts of rising sea levels, which could lead to flooding and damage to infrastructure, property, and the city's economy. In addition to rising sea levels, Shanghai is also at risk of being flooded due to the heavy rain and typhoons that the region experiences.
Shanghai at 2 degrees. Now take a look at this. If it reaches 4 degrees, look at the loss of land.
The city is located in a tropical and subtropical climate zone and is prone to extreme weather events such as typhoons, which can bring strong winds and heavy rain. These weather events can lead to flash flooding and landslides, which can cause damage to infrastructure and property and disrupt the lives of the city's residents. If you like our content so far, then help us prevent both the like and subscribe button from drowning right now. Located on the Gulf Coast of the United States, New Orleans is a city that is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of rising sea levels and extreme weather events.
New Orleans will be even more surrounded by water than she is today on all sides.
In 2005, Hurricane Katrina caused widespread damage in New Orleans, and the city is still recovering from the effects of that storm. The city's low elevation and extensive network of canals make it particularly susceptible to flooding. And as sea levels continue to rise, the risk of flooding will only increase.
Water over there, you'll see that there are a bunch of dead trees. This was once a cypress forest.
In response to these threats, New Orleans has implemented a number of measures to protect itself and its residents. These measures include the construction of seawalls and other flood defenses, the implementation of stricter building codes to ensure that new construction is more resilient to flooding, and the creation of green spaces that can absorb excess water. Situated on the coast of China, Hong Kong is a bustling metropolis that is home to over 7 million people.
It's getting harder to ignore the fact that we're heading into a new era of climate crisis.
If sea levels were to rise, Hong Kong would be in danger due to the fact that the city is built on a series of islands and is surrounded by water on all sides. This makes it difficult to protect the city from rising sea levels. In addition, the city is located in a region that is prone to typhoons and storms, which can cause flooding and landslides. To mitigate the risk of flooding, Hong Kong has implemented a number of measures.
It might not look like it, but we're in Tai Hang at the moment, and this is actually the beginning of Hong Kong's largest drainage tunnel.
One of these measures is the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Government's Flood Prevention and Drainage Plan, which is a comprehensive plan that outlines the measures that the government will take to reduce the risk of flooding in the city. The plan includes measures such as building seawalls, improving drainage systems, and raising the heights of roads and buildings.
When the water tank is full, you'll see this is actually where the water is released back into the drainage system.
Venice, Italy. A city known for its canals and historic architecture, Venice is located on the northeastern part of Italy. Italy isn't only threatened by floods, but also by its own sinking. Much of Venice is just a few feet above sea level. The fact that the city is built on wooden piles that are sinking into the soft ground only adds to the problem. It is estimated that much of Venice could be underwater within the next decades if sea levels continue to rise. Mumbai is a coastal city located on the western coast of India and is at risk of being flooded due to a number of factors, including the city's low elevation, its location on the Konkan coast, which is prone to flooding, and its rapid population growth. One of the main reasons why Mumbai is vulnerable to flooding is its low elevation.
Sea level has risen by 20 centimeters already. Mumbai शहर पर डूबने का खतरा मंडरा रहा है.
In 2005, the city experienced one of its worst floods in recent history when heavy rains and high tides caused widespread flooding. The floodwaters rose to a height of more than 2 meters or 6 feet in some parts of the city, causing damage to infrastructure and property and disrupting the lives of millions of people. Another factor that could contribute to flooding in Mumbai is its location on the Konkan coast. The Konkan coast is a narrow strip of land that stretches along the western coast of India. It is prone to flooding due to the presence of a large number of rivers and streams that flow into the sea, the flat and low-lying nature of the land, and the lack of natural barriers to protect the coast from the sea. Mumbai's rapid population growth is another factor that could contribute to flooding if sea levels rise. As the city's population grows, the demand for housing, infrastructure, and other services also increases. This puts pressure on the city's limited land resources and could potentially lead to the construction of new buildings and roads in areas that are prone to flooding. Sydney is the capital of the state of New South Wales and the largest city in Australia. Located on the east coast of the country, Sydney is home to a population of over 5 million people, and it is known for its iconic landmarks such as the Sydney Opera House and Sydney Harbour Bridge, and its sandy beaches. As a coastal city, Sydney is at risk of being flooded if sea levels rise. The city has a low elevation which makes it vulnerable to flooding from the Pacific Ocean and the Tasman Sea. In addition to rising sea levels, Sydney is also at risk of being flooded due to extreme weather events such as storms and cyclones. The city is located in a region that is prone to these types of weather events, which can bring heavy rain and strong winds that can cause flash flooding and landslides.
Thousands of people have been told to leave their homes in Australia's biggest city, Sydney, because of the risk of flooding.
New York City is the largest city in the United States and is located on the eastern coast of the country. It is home to a population of over 8 million people and is one of the most famous cities in the whole world. New York is also facing the challenge of rising sea levels and the risk of flooding. The city is built on a low-lying coastal plain which makes it vulnerable to flooding from the Atlantic Ocean, especially during high tides and storms. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy caused widespread flooding and damage in New York City, highlighting the city's vulnerability to extreme weather events. In addition to rising sea levels, New York City is also facing the threat of more frequent and intense storms and hurricanes due to climate change. The city's infrastructure and buildings, many of which were built before the threat of sea level rise was fully understood, may not be able to withstand the increased frequency and intensity of these weather events. This puts the city's residents, property, and economy at risk. To address these challenges, New York City is taking steps to adapt to the impacts of climate change and reduce the risk of flooding. This includes building flood defenses, implementing green infrastructure solutions such as green roofs and permeable pavement, and promoting sustainable development practices. Rio de Janeiro, often simply called Rio, is the capital of the state of Rio de Janeiro and the second most populous city in Brazil. Located on the country's southeastern coast, Rio is known for its stunning natural beauty, including its iconic beaches such as Copacabana and Ipanema, and its iconic landmarks such as the Christ the Redeemer statue and Sugarloaf Mountain. Rio is also faced with the challenge of rising sea levels and the risk of flooding. The city is in danger of flooding from the Atlantic Ocean, especially during high tides and storms. In addition, the city is built on a narrow strip of land that is sandwiched between the ocean and the mountains, which limits the available space for development and makes it more difficult to build flood defenses. In the past, Rio has already experienced several major floods, including the 1966 flood, which caused widespread damage and loss of life, and hence it is very much in danger if sea levels rise. See you in the next video!